couple of years ago when I became a team lead and a tech lead, maybe 7 or 8 years ago when I got into leadership and technical leadership, one of the hardest things was basically getting rid of my engineering mindset. It took me several years, actually, up until recently, to realize the mistakes I was making. And these weren't really like a crucial or like a groundbreaking or like you can't do your job type of mistakes, but they were mistakes that caused me, myself, confusion and then probably a little bit of annoyances to others. So let me kind of elaborate on some of these things. So, if you're a software engineer, if you have spent 5, 10, 15, 20 years writing code, you know that you're very, very much defined by the rules and axioms and math and physics and computers and all of that stuff, right? So you essentially, the way that you think is very much shaped, willingly or not, by the way that you've spent years working every day. So, you would write some code, and given that input, you would get some output. And this was very deterministic, almost like a pure function itself, given the same input, you should always get the same output. Now, when you get into leadership and the different set of problems you have to solve, this drastically have to change, but the problem is you are still the same. It's not very easy to get into leadership and just throw away 10, 15, 20 years of previous experience, thinking, the thought process, the system design, etc., etc., etc. So for me, this was exactly the problem. I would get into meetings with the management, with rest of the leaders, and I always strive to get to the point of objective truth. Given these variables, it should be like this and not like that, etc., etc., etc. Now my obsession was in a wrong place. My obsession was being right very often, and not actually being obsessed by the outcomes, by providing clarity to my team, to the organization where I worked, etc., etc., etc. So let me give you some examples. So when you go into some of these meetings, really the reason why you are there, alongside many other leaders from other teams, is to be able to capture the essence of something and then present it to your team or whoever actually has to have this information. Now, during these meetings, really, or during some plannings or during some discussions, your core obsession should be basically understanding what it is that people are saying, and this is kind of the trap. Like, very often you will expect people to say exactly what they want, provide you with the exact details, and then, you taking that and then going to your team. Now, the fallacy of this is that if the world operated like this, you wouldn't be a leader at the first place, because if people were able to convey together, have 5 different founders, co-founders, management, if people were so good at saying the exact thing that they want at the exact time when you need it, we wouldn't even need management, because things would simply work out. You would go to your engineers or your designers, your PMs, and then just give them what they want. It's the same applies to a PM role, product manager. If people and the customers were able to articulate what they want, PMs wouldn't exist either. So fundamentally, these are the moments when you understand what your job actually is. Your job is to essentially be the greatest person in a moment of uncertainty, ambiguity, and lack of process, etc., etc. This is exactly what makes the greatest leaders on earth great, which is their obsession to be in a place of unknown and walk and strive and go towards the places that they have to go to extract the necessary information, lay down for the team or different teams, and then execute. So note that if you're a software engineer who is willing to go into technical leadership, or maybe you already went there, note that you're no longer working with computers, you're no longer input and output, it's no longer pure functions, it's no longer deterministic, you no longer have to be right, you can, give in the correct input and get the wrong output, and sometimes, and most of the time actually, you should be happy even with the wrong output. Your role whatsoever is to take whatever you get, you're going to have many founders, many co-founders, many people, try to listen what they're saying. Sometimes they will be saying different things every day. Instead of being irritated by it, instead of complaining, and especially to your own team, your role now is to actually say, okay, well, they're saying so many things. What are they saying? Are there certain places that I can go and get more clarity? Are there any circumstances, any better areas where I can, go and improve? And this, of course, leads us to the second most important point. I believe the greatest point for all individuals on earth, also leaders included, and that is being proactive and not reactive. If you want to be a great leader, you have to be a person that's willing to put oneself in places where other people don't want to go. So for example, if you go tomorrow to work and see that your CTO, your whatever, CFO, whoever is struggling, go and say, hey, John Doe, hey, Anna, hey, Julie, hey, whatever, James, what can I do to help? Is there something I can do to make your life easier, hence make everyone's life easier in this organization? So if you want to be a good leader, this is basically what leadership in a nutshell is. Leading, taking the burden, taking that thing on your back and standing first in line, and then, pulling everyone else with you. So fundamentally, you have to, if you're a passive person, if you're expecting that information will be pushed like using wind or force towards your way, you're not a leader, you're just a person that has a leadership role, but you're not leading anything or anyone. So the core thing is getting obsessed by ambiguity, by lack of clarity, asking yourself, given this input of nothing, how can I provide the output of something, is what's going to get you very far as a leader. And of course, the only way to do that is to be proactive, is to care, is to truly find meaning and pride in your team, in fixing things around. Of course, I hope that you got your leadership role by already being this person, by being the person who, already pushed for things and somebody has saw this and, made you a leader in the first place. Whatsoever, if you haven't, done that, if you haven't really earned your role that way, now it's the way to start. It's the way to start pushing for things. Whatsoever, if you're a person today that's watching this video and thinking, okay, I'm not a leader yet, how can I become one? This is how you become a leader. You put yourself in places that no longer people want to be at, and then you try to improve things. Sometimes you're going to get a lot of friction. Sometimes people will get annoyed. Sometimes you will maybe even work for a little while against yourself. But as you become that person, as you build trust, as people start saying, oh, wow, look at Anna, look at John, they're doing great, you will be getting more and more power. You will be able to make more and more change. So be stoic, be proactive, and note that your job is no longer what it used to be for many years. Nobody is going to be coming to you telling you what to do. Nobody will be, massaging the tasks for you or putting things in your backlog. You're now that person. You need to figure things out. You need to ask yourself, how can I improve the processes in this organization and my team? And if you do this, if you get rid of your engineering mindset to some part, find some balance, and then focus on other things, I think you're going to get very far. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you have anything to say, please share it in the comments, and I'll see you in another one. Peace out, everybody. Bye-bye.